Wait,
this
one
guy-
cow, 3 million.
Yes. Now, maybe then I can...
One cow, 3 million.
why go through the whole process of embryo transfer when you can talk to this farmer who has already gotten products?
Yes.
We just buy the products, end of story. Get the farmer to understand this is an investment. The same way you would wake up, buy a vehicle.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same way somebody then decide, let me do the embryo transfer work. Taking the picture into consideration.
Yes. So basically, this, Dr. what you're telling us, for us to achieve pedigree in the normal way, we'll go for like 5-6 years.
So you now get, what do I call it, offsprings, which are from that particular arrangement. Then, of course, better producers, better conformation. Basically, I mean, we're looking at designer animals.
Designer animal. So are there any genetic issues when you do the process? Maybe they are weaker, susceptible to diseases or something. Or it's... How?
I think when I talk about new release semen,
Yes.
semen is about fashion. So the common practice in the industry is to use all the embryos which are produced. But then when it comes now to the feeding, the same way you went out of your way to do precision breeding, my friend, this is the time for TMR and precision feeding.
Okay.
That capacity has to be worked on in such a way that you get the right volumes of milk from start to finish.
Yes. Hello there, farmer. Welcome back again to our channel. My name is Alexander Paul, and this is Paul Farm. Today, we have a very interesting topic. It's about breeding and all that. With me is my good friend, Dr. Maurice. How are you, sir?
Thank you. Welcome.
All right. Introduce yourself to the viewers.
Welcome, viewers. My name is Dr. Maurice Chagagoin. I work in the space of dairy breeding, especially. I'm specializing on the new technology, embryo transfer. Though again, we've got a lot of expertise around artificial insemination, AI. So we are at home with the breeding technologies. And thank you, Alexander Paul, for inviting me into this particular session.
Thank you very much. So we are going to go straight into it. Daktari, this is a very hot topic. I have even had to remove my coat. So, tell us about how it goes. What is embryo transfer and how can it benefit the common mwananchi?
This is a technology, thank God, which has been there with us. And in Kenya, especially, whereas there have been a strong effort to try and put this particular technology in the hands of a lot of farmers, we found like the cost has been the biggest handicap. But first of all, before then I go far, let me explain in details what this particular technology involves.
Yes.
Embryo transfer technology is done in two common ways. One, we call it the in vivo, the one done inside the animal. And there's a second one we call in vitro, the one we do it in a lab setup.
Okay.
Let me then unpack further. The one we do inside the animal, the in vivo, basically involves use of hormones. Hormones, especially for the purposes of causing the ovaries to release several eggs at a go. In the scientific world, we call it multiple ovulation. That set of hormones, which is not very far from the ones being used in hospitals and ladies.
For humans.
For humans.
Okay.
Yeah, whereby for argument's sake, when a lady is challenged in getting even a single child, maybe for the challenges of the ovaries, then they use hormones and they cause the mother then to give several eggs at a go.
Okay.
And then the mother comes home with triplets, quadruplets, and that particular kind of thing. So these hormones then is what we've used it in the animal world. Specifically then in this case it is the cow. Those are the hormones we use. Then again we do a second thing. We cause it to come on heat the day we want. Of course you are aware under normal circumstances the animal comes on heat on a random days, you get me. So we do what we call the synchronization, coming on the animal, getting the animals to come on it on the day we want.
Okay.
That way then we should be able then to prepare other animals to do the receiving of those particular embryos.
Okay.
So in a nutshell then this is the process whereby we cause a cow, especially very superior cows, the one with a lot of milk, the one you are very much interested in, that kind of thing. First of all, then to release several eggs at a go, and then we'll take those particular eggs and then first of all fertilize them because of course they are infertile.
Yes.
We use AI to fertilize them. And then once they are fertilized on the day the animal has come on heat, then 7 days later, we find a way then to remove those particular embryos in a process called harvesting or flushing. And then we now put them into animals which have been prepared in advance. Also came on heat on the same date as the donor, the animal which is giving us the fertilized eggs or the embryos. And then now at the day of transfer, which is day 7, we now take these particular embryos, put them now on this particular receiving animal, and these ones now, or animals, these ones now carry the pregnancy to the completion. Yes. So in a nutshell, then that quality animal, that once in a lifetime animal, which is very, very good in production, very good in conformation. You know, what do I call it? You prayed very well to get it.
Yes.
Now that one, you give it a chance then to give you several eggs.
Yes.
And of course, that way then you can get it several calves from that particular animal. Okay. Unlike a situation whereby, you know, nature would be like, maybe you got a bull out of it and maybe you didn't get any products you can keep. So that way then, what do I call it? The scientific world enable us then to preserve this particular good quality genetics by giving it a chance to have several calves. All right. The process I've talked about then is what we do inside the cow and what we call now conventional embryo transfer, or in other words, multiple ovulation embryo transfer. In brief, MOET. 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 Then now there's now the other side of the divide. What we do now, we don't wait for the animal to shed the eggs and whatever. We use specialized needles and also ultrasound technology, which allows us then to see specifically to reach out specifically into the ovaries. The ovaries, then we pick out the unfertilized eggs. Yes. There is a way with ultrasound, then there's a shade you get. Then now from there, you now suck it nicely into a specialized kind of a dish. And from that particular dish, because they are immature, you now take them to a lab setup. In that lab setup, then you get to mature them, the ova. Once they have matured enough, then they are ready for fertilization. All right. So you introduce the semen in a petri dish environment. And once that fertilization has taken place, then you use the same lab setup to mature those embryos, the fertilized eggs, until they are 7 days. When they are 7 days old, they are ready then for transfer, the same way they would have gotten them from the conventional embryo transfer technology. All right. That way, then you would have also prepared the surrogates to receive. So they receive the same way in the transfer process. And so 9 months later, you have calves to talk about.
I have a question, Daktari.
Yes.
The question is on the synchronization.
Yes.
So you've made them now come on heat at the same time. The one that is donating the eggs and the surrogate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Surrogate being the one that is going to carry the pregnancy.
Yes.
Are there chances of missing it with a day or two, or there's an allowance of maybe 3-4 days is okay, or is it an exact?
We plan around the exact timing.
Yes.
But of course, nature being what it is,
Yes.
at times they don't cooperate as you expect. So there is a reasonable allowance we'd offer.
Okay.
Within a day, maximum 2 days, worst case scenario 3 days, in which then the synchronization need to have taken place.
Okay.
But then we make up for that a difference in time
Yes.
by the age of the embryo. You get me? Even when the embryos get to be released, not all of them get to be released on the same time. So even the AI we do staggered AI. We do 12 hours apart.
Yes, yes.
So the first one maybe we can do in the first morning of the first day. Then in the evening we do, and we follow up on that particular kind. So at the end of the day, then you'll have embryos in different stages. So come the time to harvest, the different stages then will be matched with the surrogates, which have come on different stages, different ages, so to say.
All right.
So we try and make up with that. But in essence, then when we do the synchronization part, we really work to see to it that all animals then come at least on a chosen day. So that even when we are doing the embryo transfer work, the harvesting and transfer, we can work everything within a particular day.
All right.
Yes.
So let me ask you something maybe the viewer would want. You've mentioned the donor of the eggs and the surrogate. Say, for example, I have my neighbor who has a cow and I just want a calf. Can they assist me? I give them the egg.
Let me paraphrase for you. Basically, it's like, can two neighbors work together?
Yes.
Maybe for argument's sake, one providing the donor,
yes,
and another one providing the surrogate.
Yes.
Or better still, and we've seen it in a cooperative setup.
Yes.
Can we work in a cooperative setup so that several farmers provide their surrogates, and maybe one farmer or two farmers provide the donors?
Yes.
Yes. So that is feasible.
Okay.
As long as then, of course, there is good understanding, and as long as then there is you don't get an excess whereby then at the end of the day somebody is complaining too much, like maybe then my cost was too high, that kind of thing. But we've worked with farmers then to have some good understanding. I think we've got a few cooperatives. I remember a few in, like one in Gakindu in Mukuruine.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So there then the farmers then came together. Each one provided their surrogates. But with the donors, in their case, then the donors we got from somewhere else, just provided them with the embryos. Then the embryos then matured. But when you're really having a big team, and we've had to deal with such situations, then we now talk with, first of all, with the whole group, and have a good understanding with that particular team. Yeah, you get me. Once that particular understanding and everybody is expected the terms and conditions of being in the group, then of course it can be rolled out. And but the biggest thing then again is even around the funding.
Before we go to the funding, do you have like signed agreements so that in case of anything, someone doesn't come? Because
we have them.
When as a group, someone comes and says, "I give consent to give my eggs to be harvested," and then later on they'll be like, "No, you guys benefited from this and this." Do they have like a signed agreement so that it doesn't happen after that?
For each and every group is unique.
Yes.
You get me? And in some places, a gentleman's agreement is good, and you're home and dry. Yeah. But we've learned then in some situations that it's best when everything is in black and white. Sure. That there is an agreement in place. So as a group, and we work under the East African Semen and Embryo Transfer Association at times, or even at organization level, like at ADC where I work. So we then would organize good contracts for the farmers we are going to work with. So in the unlikely event that somebody then feels they are not happy in that kind of thing, there is always a contract then to revert to. Okay. So that has been the norm, and we normally would work with a group which when we choose to go that particular route. So clarity and the group in question then would dictate the kind of effort which will be required And contracts then can be from the donor side when you're producing the eggs, the receiving side when they are. We learned a lot from the human side, and human sides tend to be more complicated because then at times attachment to the babies who are being born can tend to be very, very, very crazy. But with that in mind, then we also alive to that particular scenario. So we really, we really go out of our way. First of all, make the farmers understand what they are getting into. And then we journey with them now the whole process from start to finish. And then finally, then when the products are also found, then we also journey to them to see to it that nothing happens. So or better still, that there is harmony from that results, and at the end of the day there is win-win for all the parties. So that's the embryo transfer is a long journey we've learned. It's not just one. In fact, turns out even it's not just one off that we do it once and that's the end of the story. Most of the not for a very successful ones. We repeat. We do the first time, the second time, maybe even the third time. The $1 million question normally is like, what is the cost implication on the side of the farmers who want to be involved? Let me see the two processes. Then the cost implication in the two processes tend to be different. The multiple ovulation embryo transfer, which has been popular, which has a low cost implication in terms of the setup. You get me? On the setup side, then it's just a matter of the equipment, the hormones, and even the equipment is very basic. Some microscopes and maybe some working tables which have got to be there. We've done it in kitchens of farmers. So that makes it's a very, very easy and process. The only challenge then normally is around the hormones that tend to push the cost high, and especially on the side of the donor. You know, the hormones to get the multiple the multiple ovulation and the secret. In fact, the one for the multiple ovulation especially is a very costly hormone. So that tends to put the cost high. So for the farmers then who use that particular process, when the embryos are ready, then we'd be looking at prices of between 20 to 30, worst case scenario 25 for the locally produced embryos. Now, when the embryos have to be brought in from abroad, then the prices then tend to be higher. And we are looking at least no less than the equivalent of 45,000. Some could get even to be as high as $1,000.
That's like 130,000.
Exactly. Let's also appreciate one thing. The people who do a lot of this work around embryo transfer generally are in the breeding side of the divide. It's just not just a matter of just getting some milk and I've seen them to have some high producing milkers. What tends to happen then is like they would push themselves on the breeding side of the divide, and on the breeding side of the divide, then they open up that space for semen. Semen production. And when you go into the semen production, the ball game changes. Others then would also specialize now on producing embryos for sale. You get me? And that becomes the ball.
It's an investment. That 130,000 is investment.
So by the time then you even get somebody then to get the returns around that investment, then for sure the guys have seen quite ahead, and they get a return. An average cow, when it does reasonably well for an average animal, then we are looking at no less than 7 embryos being produced in one session. And even at the low price of 25, 30,000, let me even use 30,000. So you're looking at, for every session, 210,000 as part of that particular cost. I mean, that will be the cost. So for production of those particular embryos, we're looking at about a third, about 70,000, which goes with that. That 70,000 basically is the hormones and also the semen. There's a semen cost to it. You get me? And some farmers would even want, like, since I want to produce sexed embryos, then they're using the sex semen, and that tends to push then the cost of that process slightly higher. But again, the kind of prices I gave you are the one for conventional embryos. So when you now change that mindset as like you're producing sexed embryos, then the cost per embryo, most of them would be approaching the 130 or even the 150 and above, Kenya shillings equivalent. Now Now, and that particular space, at times, and for even what we have done with the local farmers,
Yes.
by the time they're into the production of embryos,
Yes.
most of them they don't look at even the fact that they would want to sell. Many
They just
farmers
want
are
to
happy
retain.
to retain
Yes.
and actually get the products themselves.
But on that note, Daktari, you've had, say, 7 eggs, and you've only, transferred 1 embryo, and that means you'll have 1 in calf, right? What happens to the other extra eggs? Is there some sort of storage? How does it go?
I think I could have missed this particular step.
Okay.
So let me then paraphrase. Then I bring out the numbers. When we are dealing with a session, normally we recommend no less than 3 donors.
3 donors.
3 donor animals.
Uh-huh.
We are dealing with biological beings, and once in a while they cooperate, and once in a while they can disappoint. So then we normally kind of play safe with those kind of numbers. On the side of the surrogates, we also do numbers.
Okay.
We do recommend no less than 5, but then the more the recipients, yes, but the more the farmer or the two group can be able then to pick, then the better it is for the team. So generally then when since we are dealing with the 3 at least,
Yes.
and even I've just used the word average, so we'd expect that at least there will be about 20 embryos to deal with. On the other side, then it is 10. Normally, at least for every 3, we'd like to recommend a bit 10. Then with the 10, then at least you are able then to utilize half that number. And then another 10, then you normally would be stored. And like I mentioned earlier, then when you do a second program, then depending on whether you want to continue to harvest or if you just want to do a program alone whereby you transfer, then of course that option then is available.
You've mentioned storing. So out of this, the first batch, you'll store some, or
yes,
it's
feasible to store.
Okay.
The storage part, then there is a way we use liquid nitrogen, the one similar to the one in the AI container, of course, and we even store in an AI container. So there's a way when we don't use the embryos, then we can use some specialized equipment to cool those particular embryos to a level now they can be stored in straws, which are similar to the ones of AI. So that's now the part then which can be done.
Right.
So for those excess embryos, of course, like I mentioned, then those are the ones which are available for sale to a farmer who, for one reason or another, then cannot get quality donors, and for such a farmer then who chooses now just my business then is just to get hold of embryos which are transferred to my animals, then me I just worry about the animal which is going to be in calf and be born. Since this is a very precision technology and science for that matter, we don't get 100% conceptions.
Okay.
Yes. So we get about 50, and with those 50 then for that particular session, when you get the 50, then the next lot of animals which are not conceived, are available then to be given another chance to conceive. So we do a first round and second round for that matter.
I will stop you there kindly, Daktari.
Yes.
And ask you, now, let's say Mr. John has engaged the first time, it was not successful. There's the charges, of course, that came with that.
Yes.
And then he has to repeat.
Yes.
Are there charges for that as well? Or how does it go?
Yeah, because of the hormones, and I think it's used on surrogates and the donors, that kind of thing. And we tell the farmer, this is that session now to also get the farmers to understand.
Yes.
We now have and educated the farmer well as to what to expect.
Yes.
So like the first round, we'll do the work, and there will be a chance of success. We can do the second round. There'll be some successes. The third round and the fourth round if need be. So the issue then, and I think the $1 million question many farmers then, the return on investment.
Correct.
Again, we carefully and get the farmer to understand this is an investment. The same way you would wake up, buy a vehicle.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same way somebody then decide, let me do the embryo transfer work, taking the picture into consideration.
Yes.
Now, let me tell you now the sweet side of the divide.
Tell
the
us.
return of the investment.
Yes.
Now, of course, even as I think we surprise ourselves once in a while when you take the product to the market.
Yes.
First of all, let's be very clear. Rarely do we get farmers wanting to sell products they have gotten from embryo transfer. That one calf.
Yes.
Both males and female at times. Males at times they don't mind so much. They can sell. But females, going by the process they have had to take themselves through, they rarely go into the process of selling. But there was one unlikely case whereby then we had farmers from a serious cooperative, let me not mention names, their muscle, then it was like, why go through the whole process of embryo transfer when you can talk to this farmer who has already gotten products?
Yes.
We just buy the products, end of story. So that in mind, then they approach the farmers like, now, see, we save us the headache and time of getting the products. Yeah. So the farmer then at that particular time decided to quote, almost like trying to put off the farmers because he did not want.
He did not want to now give the product.
So the farmer quoted $1 million.
Whoa.
Yes.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So these guys then went into discussion and I think 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, they were back.
They had a deal.
They had a deal. They had agreed. They had agreed like they want now to get this farmer to sell them.
Right.
Kumbe the farmer was also thinking in the process.
Oh.
So when now it comes now to the point of agreeing, the farmer said, no.
Okay.
I'm not going to sell.
Yeah.
If you really, really, really must buy from me,
wait for it to calm down.
I'm now asking 3
million. Wait,
this
one
guy,
cow, 3 million.
Yes. Now, maybe then I can...
One cow, 3 million.
Now, let me then substantiate further. I mentioned the fact that you can harvest embryos subsequently. Yes. You can repeat it every 2 months.
Yes.
And for a good year, at times you can go up to 6 times.
And each time is 6 to 7 eggs.
Yeah. But, I mean, nature is also very interesting. Like, I think we've had an extreme case of a cow which gave us 30 embryos in one session.
Wow.
So, I mean, such things can happen, and especially when you get it all right, then you can get the numbers.
Okay.
So, I think the farmer then was like, if you can even get 7 embryos every 2 months, you get for the whole year, 6 times 7, we are looking at over 30, over 40, approaching 40 embryos, and 40 embryos times. Even of course, you will even go 30,000.
30,000
because then
that's 1.2 million.
1.2 million. So if 1 year you can get 1.2, and you can repeat that the following year and the beginning. And by that time, maybe then the offsprings will also be in the mix. You get me, and the offsprings will even be better than the mother. So for him, then when he did the projections, then he was going to earn much, much more than what the farmers were putting on the table.
Sure.
So that's the difference. Yeah. I've talked more on the multiple ovulation embryo transfer.
Yes.
When we go also to the in vitro, the one we do it in the lab, those figures are even more exciting. The thing is, the cost of setup is high because of the equipment to the lab. You need incubators and also the other chemicals associated with much, growing the embryos and also even growing the eggs before that. After then that, once you have set up, and it's serious money, you're looking at between 30 and even 100 and some extreme cases.
Okay, for the process.
That setup.
Yes.
But once the embryos are in production, then we are looking at prices of between 10 and 15,000 per embryo.
Okay.
So the cost per embryo there is much lower than when you are doing the one inside the cow.
Outside.
The moit, the in vivo embryo, the in vitro embryos are cheaper than the in vitro embryos in terms of production.
Okay.
Yeah, but the the cost of setup, that is of the equipment and the rest is higher on the side of the in vitro process. But once that happens, and then you can achieve the scale, because then you can harvest every 2 weeks the ova, and then for every ova session, at times then you can get away with almost 10 embryos. The only challenge then also with that particular process at times then is like the freezing of the embryos is not very good. So the common practice in the industry is to use all the embryos which are produced at any one time. Yeah.
Okay.
But in the event that they have to be frozen, then the conception rate is much lower. For the conventional embryos, we are looking at 40%. The ones for the in vitro process, we are looking at 30%. Okay. So the cost per embryo makes up for the lower conception rates. Yeah.
Daktari, I have a question. When you want to achieve pedigree,
yes,
for a cow,
yes, you start with the pool, then you rise all the way appendix,
yes,
then you are going to high grade, then pedigree. There's about 4 steps and 4 generations.
4 steps and 4 generations.
Yes.
So basically, this, Daktari, what you're telling us, for us to achieve pedigree in the normal way, we'll go for like 5-6 years.
When I'm talking of a generation, you're waiting for an animal to mature,
and then
2 years plus, almost 3 years. Then you now breed it again, get offsprings. So basically, we're looking at no less than 15 years. 15 years from scratch to that
to get pedigree.
Yeah, but
and with the process you're telling us, you transfer you just
you make use of pedigree donors.
Yes,
and you make use of pedigree bulls, of course,
and you get a pedigree.
Yeah, you just pedigree branch first generation. So, what do I call? You save yourself all that breeding time.
Dear farmers, you have saved 15 years and you get a pedigree cow, one touch. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah, one generation, of course, there's that element. Be ready. Of course, there'll be that 1 year of preparation and putting the animal, making the animal in calf. Then, of course, there'll be the calving up, and then now you mature it for the 2 years. 3 years is what you are looking at. So, Paul, for the guys who want instant solutions, that doesn't happen.
But it's faster.
Yeah, it's faster by far. So 3 years vis-a-vis 15 years, that's a whole difference.
So are there any genetic issues when you do the process? Maybe they are weak, susceptible to diseases or something, or it's... I think that's the reason, and even when we pick this particular technology, we go out of our way to pick the best of the best. The best of the brand.
Yeah. So basically, you need to be comfortable that the animal in question has performed well in a herd. Even in terms of production, progeny, conformation, it's the top of the top. Okay. You get me? Rarely do we... it's just basically the top 10% or top 5%. That's what we work with for any herd. So
the best of everything.
The best of everything. So that animal which has outperformed all the other animals, that will be our top pick. But of course, then it doesn't have to be alone. So the number 2, number 3, until depending on the numbers of animals, then you want to end up with, or the embryos you want to end up with, then of course that decision then can be made as to what numbers you are dealing. Right. But basically, then we look for the best. Then on the side of the semen, also we look for the best of the best. At times we go out of our way to even use the new release semen. You get me?
Expound on the new release semen.
Let me then, when I talk about new release semen, semen is about fashion. Whatever was bred and is in the market at times.
Yes.
You realize then, because of the better selection which has gone into it, the best genomics which has been done on it, from the kind of genomic reads, then you'll find that offspring then outperforms the parents. So at any one time and every bull station then is working very hard to better and to have better products than any other person in the district. So what you find now is like, especially the genomic rated bulls right now, where they just use DNA to get the performance.
Wow.
So many farmers then would go for that, the top of the top, around that genomic lines.
Yes.
Then those are the ones now which are used for breeding. So you now get, what do I call it, offsprings which are from that particular arrangement. Then of course better producers, better conformation. Basically, I mean, we're looking at designer animals around embryo transfer.
And with designers, there's fashion which is out, fashion which is
of course, yeah. So
I get it.
You can't you can't purport then to hold on to old stocks and newer things are out there in
designer
the market.
Cows.
Yes,
That's interesting.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing, and of course, even in that context, we're looking at animals which really perform. 40 liters, 50 liters, 60, give us even 70 liters or 80. We are more than happy to work with those animals.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as then the returns also, even if it's going to the milking kind of thing, for sure the animals will perform in the herd, no doubt about it.
Yes.
So even for farmers then who are into the embryo transfer, just for the sake of milk production, you get me. Then within that, for argument's sake, by the time you even do that, you get the 10 embryos you put in, you have 50 of them conceiving. You do repeat the second time, you have another lot of 10, of 5. Or better still, even when you're looking at the numbers, when you start with 20, 30, 40 surrogates. By the way, as a team, we even worked with 100 surrogates in a session over a day.
Okay.
So what do I call it? We like challenges to that level.
100 surrogates.
100 surrogates. So you're looking at 50 conceptions.
Yes.
And then from there, then you build it up to another. Yeah. So with that, if you work your wells 3 years down the line, surely you should be having your
designer cow.
Yeah, designer cow, 50 of them.
Yes.
And from where we sit, a herd of about 50 animals.
Yes.
Is a very, very good starting point, especially on the economic side of the divide. You can bring in a lorry load of feeds, and there will be enough storage, and the animals will be comfortable consuming. And of course, it will also justify your investment on machineries and whatever else.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's something to head for.
I'll ask you another question. And as we are doing our interviews, visiting farmers, we've come across the notion that dairy milk production, 70% is about feeding and only 30% is about genetics. When you have a designer cow, can that be inverse? Because you've brought the best of the best. Can it be that now, in terms of feeding, you might not go as hard as the regular cows?
I beg to disappoint the farmers who want to have an easy go as far as dairy is concerned.
No shortcut.
There's no shortcut. When you have even challenged to get the best of that genetics,
yes,
you are even challenged then to get it right more on the side of feeding. You get me?
Yes.
And in fact, many farmers then are put off by the level of effort which is required to feed the animals associated with the quality breeding which has gone into it. But having said that, then we, and even from the team we work with, the embryo transfer team, then we journey with the farmer. We just don't, what do I call it, leave you high and dry that you've gotten your products. As like we because of the effort which is required, we really want to journey with you. So from the time of we've come in to do the work, we work with you then until you've gotten your births, and once you have the calves, again we help you to see to it that the calves really come out well.
Yes.
Because again, if you stress the calves in between, then all that effort is lost because of the fact that the animals don't express themselves well genetically. And then, of course, now we take you into we mature them once they are ready to conceive and the rest, then of course we make that decision. Do you even want to continue with embryo production or just want to go into the milk?
Yes.
We'll be there to journey with you. But then when it comes now to the feeding, the same way you went out of your way to do precision breeding, my friend, this is the time for TMR and precision feeding. That capacity has to be worked on in such a way that you get the right volumes of milk from start to finish.
Yes.
You get, and again, we're more than happy to also demonstrate really that if they are well managed, then an embryo transfer animal will definitely outperform whatever
regular.
else is in the herd.
That's
in terms of the fact that they will produce the right volumes.
Yes, yes.
But then, of course, I mean, much as we work all this kind of thing, I mean, and this is also one thing we needed to appreciate with the farmers.
Yes.
At times, you look at production, and supposedly that once the milk has landed on the, or is it on the containers, then that's the end of the story. We're also here to say that when you are in this particular business, it really, really matters what final price you end up for your milk.
Yeah, okay.
You get me?
Okay.
And for the farmers we worked with, normally we found a way, or they found a way then to get premium prices for their milk. That is the only way then you can justify this particular kind of thing.
Okay.
You cannot be in regular prices when you are doing this particular technology.
Like the 40 liters, 40 shillings per
no,
liter.
No. You really want to compare that. For some, I mean, they've gone to the extent of doing value addition for the milk that way then they're cleaning. And then for the farmers then who have done it with us, gotten that kind of thing. At the end of the day, even if it's just on the line of milk, you get value for money when we work together.
So from what I'm getting from you is that for it to make sense, you either have to breed and sell the embryos, or have value addition in the production of milk and what have you.
That's got it right.
There
are no two ways about it.
There are no two ways about it.
When you've chosen to be an elite farmer, you just go to do what elite farmers do.
So what you're saying, Doctor, is that it's not for the common guy, it's not for my mom it's not for my mother back in the village.
Now let me kill that notion.
Okay.
That is not for everybody. Dairy, I think, let's appreciate, has brought us and that brought many families very far.
Yes.
I think it started off, you know, I mean, when at independence, and even at independence, of course, I mean, Africans at some point were not allowed to have quality animals. You are being asked to breed with your common East African zebu and whatever else, so that you can have some foundations too. But one thing then we appreciate is that immediately even after independence, I mean, many Kenyan farmers came out and they were able then to manage those Wazungu farms in ports.
Yes.
You get me? But effort was required.
Yes.
You get me? Some had to go even that extra mile of even going to colleges for the purposes of that. What I'm here then to say is that any ordinary farmer or any other person who chooses to take serious dairy in a serious way can rise to the challenges associated with that. The only thing then, what I'm now also here is that you cannot do that dairy on a laid back in a laid back setup.
Yes.
For me, even that shosho.
Yes.
Or that mother who just decides that as long as she's ready to dedicate herself into that dairy, the processes of learning how to do the management to me is something which can be taught to every let me use the word Tom, Dick and Harry.
I think I get what you're saying.
As long as you know what is expected of you, how to manage an animal in a serious way.
Yes.
But you cannot be on that autopilot and just expect to get the results. No, you really got to be dedicated. So the issue then is like, do you have that heart? Do you have that passion?
Do you want to level up?
Do you want to level?
Where you were, now you've got into this technology, you need to level up.
Exactly.
You need to level up.
Exactly. Yeah? You can't do things.
You can't do.
This is not an animal. I mean, for argument's sake, when you seriously, buy a serious car, you also manage it in a way which is commensurate to that.
You take V-power.
Exactly, yes. So you cannot expect like you get results just trying to be then.
Yes.
So with that in mind, then I think, and what we have seen, as long as then there is passion on the side of the farmer.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter the profession you start off with.
Okay.
You can be a teacher. You can, name it. And I've seen serious accountants do very serious dairying. I've even seen on the other extreme serious human doctors coming in to do serious dairy farming.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as that heart is there, and I've seen guys who have not gone to school. For argument's sake.
Yeah. It's the passion.
Yeah. Who come out in and excel in dairy and embarrass the profession also to say. But here we are to say, is feasible and it's workable, as long as the passion, the determination, the energy, and the effort by extension. Yeah.
So you talked about the surrogate much earlier, and I would like to know, is there a specific type of breed that should be a surrogate, or any type of breed? For example, if you want to have an usher, do you need to have a surrogate who's an usher, or?
In this particular work of ours, we found ourselves experimenting with very different surrogates for that particular matter. But when we've crystallized everything, the Boran cow or heifer for that matter, by the way, we prefer heifers.
Boran heifers.
The Boran heifers stand out. One, they have a very good internal system, which helps them to prevent difficult calving.
Okay.
You get me? The European breeds are prone to difficult calving and what we call dystochias in the veterinary field. But when you're dealing with a Boran, then dystochias are very, very rare. The internal systems is such that they weigh or they measure the size of the calf to just a certain size that it is ready to, we can pass through the pass canal without difficulties.
Okay.
So when that clock ticks, then the birth will take place, and you have a reasonable small calf in the sense that it has passed through the birth canal in a nice way.
Okay.
But the genetically, then it is well complete, as like it is that Frisian giant.
Yes.
It's the only thing it has been born earlier than no. So from there, then with the good milk, and again, that's also another thing we like about that butter. The milk of the Boran has got very high butter fat, and because of the fact that it has been selected for taking care of beef calves, which are meant to grow, to be very good steers, and even bulls for that matter on the beef line, then the growth for the calves born also tend to be very good and fast.
Okay.
With little bit of supplementation, then you, I mean, if you are even to match them with a calf, a dairy calf which is being born, and the one which has been born by the Boran, the one by the Boran tends to top. I mean, within, what do I call it? Within 6 months, you'd think it is the calf which is 1 year old.
Oh.
You get me? By the time it is 1 year, you think it is almost 2 years.
And do you wean it off at some point?
We prefer that, and especially then when you are dealing with a Boran as a surrogate, we prefer them to suckle directly. Don't be mean. Don't be mean. You've got to be very, very generous in your management. Because again, you are dealing with a top cow. I've just given a price of 3 million. Surely. I mean,
you can't go cheap.
On my friend that is trying to save on milk. No, that's the sacrifice you've got to be ready. So, but when that process then is taken, I mean, within what we have seen, within 14 months, 16 months at most, it's ready for serving. And again, even many farmers then would even delay the service until you really get the full frame.
Oh.
Yes.
Up to maybe 18 months?
Even up to maybe 18, just to get the full. If anything, I mean, you want to start harvesting embryos sooner or later. So you don't want to be challenged like the animal is not well formed in terms of maturity.
All right.
Yeah.
So what are the most...
So then again, without any... The other animals also are can also be used. And we've had the Garissa Boran. We've had, what do I call it? The Tana River Boran, the Orma Boran. All of them then would equally then can be used. Of course, the crosses can be used, or even purebred animals. Those one. The only thing then we watch out when you are dealing with purebreds, you need to watch out for the possibility of difficult calving, dystochias. So the common practice then, just around that time, if you are dealing with, then you've got to have a veterinarian on a standby to come and help the animal early.
Okay.
Yeah, we rarely go into cesarean section to try and support such animals. Yeah.
So what you are telling maybe my mother in the village, she already has a Frisian. So, and she wants to use this technology. She doesn't have to go for a Boran.
She doesn't, she can use that, whatever she has there, then can be used.
But there's extra caution.
Yes, at the time of calving.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That particular part. Like I mentioned then, I think if she doesn't have there are enough animals, then just pick the heifers in the neighborhood. We prefer heifers hands down. The reason for heifers then is the conception rate for heifers is much higher than when you're dealing with cows, which have given birth once, or that kind of thing. Yeah. But in an embryo transfer program, then and even in a regular basis, we found that if there are no heifers, first calves, second calves, especially which have been in the program. In each case, then we can watch for that they gave birth nicely. There were no infections after calvings. They were managed well. There were no retained after birth. Those ones we can use a second time.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe you could also give us maybe a journey of maybe in terms of cost. For example, if I want to go into this head-on, from getting a boran, heifer, to all the processes, maybe you could give us estimates on how much it would cost.
It depends on what's your aim, your objective, your vision. You get me? For the farmers we work with, we tell them with embryo transfer, don't shoot too low.
Don't shoot too low.
Yes. So really, we request, we ask them really that to target at least at the end of the whole program, then at least no less than 10 quality animals which have been born. For those ones, then we are looking at no less than 20 surrogates to work with, and then at least 3 donors, especially when you're doing the multiple ovulation embryo transfer. Yeah, even the same 3 donors you supply when you're doing the in vivo. Yeah, but of course, the more the better. The more I think in some of the programs then, and we've been happy with, we'd even do like 10 donors a day. We do it for 2 days, 3 days. So we're looking at 20, 30 donors. But that applies to the big farms. Okay. Yeah. For the very basic, then we are looking at 3 donors.
3 donors.
Yes. Then somebody would also ask, like, if I don't have a donor in my own farm, there's the option then to go out to the breeders and then buy the donors. Then and if you are on the thin budget, you can make do with the equivalent of cow cows.
Cow cows. You explain?
The ones which have leaving the herd for one reason or another, especially maybe maybe the udder was an issue, maybe that it had challenges with the breeding. You get me? Maybe it did not get that kind of category. Okay. But each case is different. But again, we would also want, like, if you really got to go that route, involve an expert to select for you, feel good, supposedly good cows, which can be spared from the butcher, and can be used for breeding again. So that is feasible. So 3 donors, then and 20 surrogate is a good working figure. The cost per surrogate, again, it will depend on where you can source them. We prefer ranch animals which have been bred in the ranch, because of the fact that when they watch and tell you really that the animals have not seen a bull, then chances are they've kept their word. In a market setup, they will tell you the animal has not been served, but if you are to test and a few other times, you realize something could have happened between them and the bull. So that is where the caution then is. So we prefer ranch. Yeah, especially so the price tend to vary.
I think that's where they are waiting for.
The prices of the prices of donors, of course, depending on how you negotiate, can be from 70,000 to 300,000. The donors now alone. One. So if you're going for the calves, 70,000. When you're going for the ones which have not been culled, that's the 300,000.
So by donors, you mean the bull itself? Or
the females which are going to give you the embryos.
Okay.
So when you're buying that 70,000 times 3, you're looking at 210. If at 300,000, you're looking at 900,000. You get me? For that particular group. Now, on the side of the receiving animals, ranch animals would vary from 70,000 to 200,000 each. Okay. So you're looking at 20, you're looking at 2 million. Okay. Yeah. So with that, we are
I think
looking
that's
at
where everybody now
3
gets
million
stuck.
and the rest. But let me substantiate.
Yes,
And let me
please
kind
do.
of thing.
Yes.
If you're having your own donors, then
Yes.
of course that cost is not with you.
But you see, the donor means is high grade. So I don't have it because
Now, if you don't have it, we've just alluded to that,
Yes,
my friend.
yes.
You have a neighbor who has it,
Yes.
and is also interested in the program.
Yes.
You get me?
Okay.
You get me? Talk nicely, as they say, through the Kenyan spirit. Yeah, and even we found, I mean, even in that cooperative setup you are in, or even in that neighborhood, when you talk nicely, there might just be somebody who might say, okay, fine, you work with my donors. You get me? So you don't have to incur all these particular costs. On the side of on the surrogate side, I mean, if you can also talk the same way we mentioned with the other cooperatives, there it's just a matter of talking nicely with your neighbors, your brothers, your relatives. I mean, that bracket you can expand nicely so that you don't have to buy.
Yes.
So I've just brought you the extreme of buying everything.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
But there is also the extreme of a guy who is very smart.
Yes.
As like they don't have to buy anything.
Yeah.
You get
just
me?
using their networks properly.
Yeah, just using, So don't be put off by supposedly grandiose prices.
Yes.
No. Every setup, every community, I've known, I mean, if you really talk nicely to a community, I mean, there are people then who are more than happy to participate, provide the animals with a good understanding that maybe as like you're producing the embryos, then some calves then can be given back to them, you know. I can't purport to understand the complexity of every situation, but it's doable.
It's doable.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm a standalone farmer and I want, just for me only, I have my heifer and I'm calling up to Dr. Maurice, come and help me out. I want this technology to my cow. Is it possible? I only have one cow.
We prefer, like even in a single situation, you team up as a team.
Okay.
So that we come and work with at least 5 animals to the minimum.
5
the more,
animals.
the better. You know, because then the cost, I mean, the cost of that treatment. You know, when I'm even coming, I mean, we incur transport for one animal.
Yes.
We could as well share the transport cost for the 5 or 10. Yeah. So in that particular setup, the very, very bare minimum costs, then we're looking at the cost of buying the embryo and cost of treatment. So by the time you get 40,000, 50,000 at the most, we are good to go for that one single animal.
Okay.
But like I mentioned, we prefer at least 5 animals
In a group.
So 250,000, find a way then to mitigate that particular cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Daktari, I have a controversial kind of question. Now that the technology is getting designer cows, won't some people think like maybe you guys are trying to play God?
Okay.
What are the ethical things around that?
We get to be asked periodically what we are doing really is not in any way bordering ethics. Let me then clarify like this. What we are doing then is, of course, participating in God's creation.
Yes, sure.
That's the part we can't run away from. But we're doing it in such a way that then we are not in any way tampering with whatever is already available for us. We, in the embryo transfer work we do, what we just saying is just what do I call it? Enhancing what is there. And it's not very far from when you go to the hospital and a mother gets to be treated, and when the mother gets to be treated, they end up with quadruplets, you know, and so forth. So that extra babies get to be born is not in any way that they have contravened what God was expecting. I mean, maybe God has even blessed them. I mean, at the end of the day, we'll even glorify God that they have been blessed much more than they would have normally. I would have expected with one child.
Sure.
So, in the same context, when we now put the animal, when you go to the animal side of the divide, what we are doing is like we're really helping farmers then to get animals they would not have gotten. If they were to go maybe to even a serious breeder and ask, like, my friend, I want the top of the top animals which you have in the herd. no normal sane farmer would sell such animals. Such brackets, that group of animals are rarely in the market.
They're really in the
But
market.
the window of embryo transfer then is different in the sense that more farmers, the farmers then in that breeding business would be happy then to participate in the embryo transfer program, knowing that they are even going to get maybe something back from such an arrangement, depending on how they put their case, in such a way that they themselves also will be winners in that particular arrangement. But for the farmers then who have been given an opportunity to have animals, they would never even have thought of even buying in the market.
Never.
For sure that is a serious blessing in that particular kind of thing. So we don't temper in any way at the level of the genetics. I mean, we're just doing the hormone thing.
Yes.
The animal does its thing as far as the production of eggs and embryos.
Yes.
And then what we just do then is just work with what nature and what has been provided for us.
Sure.
The difference now comes in now when we start doing genetic manipulation, it's called. For argument's sake, then you want to bring a gene from a pig into the cow, or maybe take the gene from the cow into a human. I mean, that kind of mixes that tend to be very, very unethical. And more so when you start involving the human beings in the mix. You get me, like you want to create a superhuman and whatever. Then I don't know whether you have created a machine or a human. That now borders the ethical lines, which then many and even of our colleagues in the breeding of animals wouldn't be involved. That is a no-go zone for us as far as that kind of thing. Yes, you get those kind of stories at times that, maybe they have taken apart, they have done it in the lab, it can now produce milk rather than looking for the whole cow. You get me? And there are pros and cons to that. Now, whether then you've crossed the ethical lines when you go that particular route, then that can happen. You get me? And but from my team around embryo transfer, we've been happy to leave nature as much as possible to remain on that.
So there you have it, farmers. This was a very amazing session. We've learned so much about breeding, about getting that designer cow, that one that you've always wanted. Remember, you get all this within just 3 years. You get a super pedigree designer cow. Thank you, Daktari, for being with us today. Maybe you could share your contacts with them. We'll still put them in the description below.
I think in appreciation, and let's also have that I don't do this work alone. I have a team. I'm just like the front for the team. When the farmer is ready to engage us, then I'll be the front. My number is 0710 815161. Currently, I'm based in Nairobi, Development House, but we reach out to farmers wherever they are in the country. We've even had sessions outside the country. So even farmers outside the country do not feel shy. We will work with you. When you are ready, I think we'll have that initial discussion before anything gets done, that each and every farmer or farmer group for that matter, or whatever team you are in, is able then, first of all, then to understand the nitty-gritty. Then from there, we walk you through. If you want a contract, we'll do a contract with you. And then at the end of the day, now we are ready now to execute. We'll come in and assist you with the selection of the animals, both the donors and the surrogates. Don't be too fast to go and supposedly select animals on your own. At times you could miss out on the qualities we are looking for. That I really need to emphasize. Work with us. Don't purportedly then go and select animals and tell us we've done that. Let's journey with you from start to finish. And as mentioned also earlier, even though we'll journey with you also from the embryo transfer work, the point when the calves get to be born, and also see to it that the animals get to perform very well at the level of production. Get to understand it much, much deeper, so that then you know why some farmers are invested in it. So with that in mind, and I'm here then to welcome each and every farmer who really wants to think outside the box as far as dairy. Don't struggle with that animal which doesn't give you milk. And forever complaining that my cows don't have milk because of the fact they were poor bred. We are here to help you that within that window of time, 1 year, you really have the quality of animals which can then give you a return on investment. Dairy right now and where we are going really is about being is a precision science. You can't just wake up and supposedly mix or breed in some ways which doesn't have a very precise order and then expect to have results. No, you need to be very careful in that particular. But I mean, if anything, get it right in the foundation.
Get it right in the foundation.
Get the right quality animals. And this particular technology then allows you then to have the best of the best, which then gives you a very good base for you then to continue working. Once you have your initial set of animals, the rest of the work is easy.
It's easy.
Yeah, you grow your herd to the hundreds or to whatever because of the fact that you had a very good base. So these are just about getting it right as far as the base. Then from there, breeding becomes a breeze.
All right.
It's very easy then to process. So thank you very much for having me, and look forward to maybe other serious sessions.
All right.
Yes.
We will.
Yes.
So, Daktari says, stop taking your chances. Instead of spending 15 years looking for a super pedigree, it will take you 2 to 3 years and you have it. So, get rid of that cow, sell it all, and come to Daktari, and he will sort you out. You'll get the breed that you want, and all will be well. Till next time, it's adios.